Have you seen the comedy show or the improvisational comedy show Whose Line Is It Anyway? If you haven't, you should see it. It's one of my favorite shows, and it's a show where comedians get together. So as you can see on the screen, there are four comedians on the stage, and then there is audience here. There are people who are sitting in the audience, and there is no script. Basically, there is no script, and they get random. So there is this host who sits here, and then they get random ideas from the crowd, and based on the random ideas, they have to come up with their come up with the situations and scenes and jokes which basically have to make the audience laugh. And I absolutely love these guys because they're charming, they're funny, they're clever, and most importantly, they never go blank. Okay, they absolutely never go blank, and it's such a tough job to do, right? I mean, you're being thrown ideas randomly from people, you can't prepare a script, but despite all of these difficulties, they just never go blank, which I think is opposite to what writers or content creators face, right? We go blank all the time. In fact, I was just joking that the shortest horror story for a writer is that he sat down to write at the computer, and all he could see is a blank page on his screen, whether it's Google Docs or Word doc, doesn't matter. But if it's blank, then this guy, this author, this content creator is going to feel sad simply because of a reason that he or she doesn't know what to write. You see, a blank screen basically, gives us a too big a horizon. It gives us too many things. It doesn't put a constraint. Okay, when you have a constraint, if I give you a constraint that, hey, you know what, you can only talk about this particular thing, your life has become easier. But when you have like a too big screen or too big a playground, you don't know what exactly to do. And this lack of constraints, this lack of a direction, this lack of a north star, if I can say that, basically creates a lot of problems, a lot of uncertainties for this writer, because he doesn't know the direction, because there is no north star whatsoever. So how can creators and brands and businesses create this north star so that they are able to create, they're able to write consistently, they're able to have topics and subtopics and outlines of those subtopics created already without facing this blank page, right? I mean, even before they sit down to write, instead of facing the blank page, can they have a structure, can they have a list of topics and subtopics, and can they have a direction, is what I want to explore today. And the simple solution for that is what I call the solar system content model. I learned this content model from Jonathan Stark. You should visit this guy. He's really, really awesome. His website is jonathanstark.com, JONATHANSTARK.com. So in the content, in the solar system content model, there are three elements. There is the sun, there are planets, and then I have made my own addition to it, which is the moon. Jonathan doesn't talk about the moon as much. It's me. So thanks, Jonathan, for the original idea. But I have taken this idea from Jonathan and I have added my own slight addition to it. So let's dig into it. Firstly, the whole concept of solar system content model, as I said, starts with the sun, because every solar system has a sun, and we need a sun for our brand. Now, what is the sun? Okay, this sun is basically the core brand story, or there can be different ways of describing this. One way is the core brand story. Okay, the other way to describe it would be like the absolute non-negotiable principle of the brand, or you could also say the actual why of the brand. Why does the brand exist in the first place? So this sun can be described in many ways, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to call it the core brand story. This core brand story is why your brand exists. It's an absolute non-negotiable, and the whole idea lies at the core of the brand. Everything that the brand does has got to be aligned with this core brand. So for example, Tesla, okay, which produces cars, right? If Tesla starts producing cars which are, let's say, creating a lot of pollution, okay, that's a pretty bad looking car, but you get the point, right? I mean, if Tesla creates cars which are adding to a lot of pollution, if they are making the earth a lot worse than it was before, then Tesla is absolutely going to lose trust. The trust is going to plummet. Why? because Tesla's core value or Tesla's core is sustainability. Okay, Tesla's core is sustainability, and anything and everything that they do has to be aligned with this, because if it is not aligned with this, then this core brand idea is challenged. Similarly, for if you have been with me for a while, and if tomorrow I start talking about SEO black hat practices, or if I start talking about conversion rate optimization, or if I start talking about how I admire Russell Brunson, I'm going to lose trust. Why am I going to lose trust? Because that is not the core of my brand. And I am going to talk about the core of my brand in a bit. But my point is that this sun is the absolute essential, or it's the absolute core brand story, which you need to figure out if at all you want to have a steady source of ideas. If you want to have if you want to become an idea machine where ideas come to you easily, then first this sun needs to be defined. Now, when the sun is defined, of course, you need to have planets that revolve around this sun. Okay, so this is the sun, and then you have multiple planets. Okay, so this is one planet which is revolving. Like this, you have multiple planets which are revolving around the sun. Okay, now what are these planets? So if sun is the core idea, so I'm going to write here core, the planets are actually the supporting ideas. Okay, so what is the supporting idea? Well, a core idea is what you absolutely, like I said, believe in. And a supporting idea is a principle which basically supports the core idea. It's like, a supporting actor. You can think of it as a pillar that supports the core idea. And I am going to come to examples in just a bit. So even if this seems a little abstract at this point of time, just hold on, because we are going to get to the good part. Okay, so we have the sun now, okay, which is the core idea. We have the planets. We have multiple planets, and it's recommended that you have multiple planets. Okay, you can have only one sun, but you can have multiple planets. In fact, you should have multiple planets. You can't just have one planet. Okay, and when the planet is decided, then you have different moons which revolve around this planet. Okay, now as I said, Jonathan doesn't use this concept of the moon. This is something that I have added to this structure. What I realized was that, if I can add the concept of moons, then the whole idea of creating topics becomes a lot easier. So like I said, the moon is like a supporting idea, right? And sorry, the planet is your supporting idea, and the moon is actually that particular topic. Okay, so your supporting idea can be broken down into multiple topics, and that particular topic can then become your YouTube video. It can then become your a podcast episode. It can then also become your blog, and so on and so forth. Okay, so we are actually doing the whole journey from the brand mission, or from the core brand story till the actual topic. The sun, just to revise, okay, the sun is the core of the brand. The planets are the supporting ideas, or the pillars of the brand, and the moons are the topics that you can take from this particular that you can write on, considering this particular sun and these particular planets. So let me take my example. So for me, or for Pranav Kale as a brand, my sun is building 1,000 true fans. I mean, that's what I absolutely believe in. I believe that we live in a day and age where a brand needs to have fans, because if the brand does not have fans, then all you need to do, or all you have to do, is depend on this vertical funnel, right? And this funnel basically is expensive and not sustainable. So my sun, or my core principle, or my core brand story is, you have to build 1,000 true fans. That's what drives me. Now, in order to support this idea, I have these many planets. Okay, these planets that you can see, I'm going to highlight them right now. These planets that you can see are these many. So what are those? I'm going to read them out. Focusing on a tiny audience and building deep connections with them helps you build 1,000 true fans. Okay, so every idea that you see here is helping my sun. All the planets are supporting pillars for my sun. Okay, having a polarized brand story helps you build 1,000 true fans. Building an audience using a horizontal funnel and not a vertical funnel helps you build 1,000 true fans. Creating deep content that brings about a profound change helps you build 1,000 true fans. Adding value before money exchanges hands helps you build 1,000 true fans. Being remarkable and empowering people to spread the word about you helps you build 1,000 true fans. Seeking permission instead of spamming helps you build 1,000 true fans. And thinking long-term helps you build 1,000 true fans. As you can see, all of these planets are supporting my sun, which is building 1,000 true fans. Now, can I break down these planets into moons? I think I can. So let's say if I take this particular planet, which is, having a strong polarizing story, it's one of my pillars. Okay, can I break it down? Yes, I can. So these are the moons that I have identified. What are those moons? Well, firstly, how to create a polarizing story. Why a polarizing story is needed in the first place. Examples of brands who created a polarizing story. The pitfalls to avoid while creating a brand story. How to conduct audience research to get the data for building your story. Now, all of these topics, okay, all of these topics can become blogs, they can become podcasts, or they can become a YouTube video, and they can become all of these as well. In fact, I might just realize that as I start working with one of the moons, for example, how to create a polarizing story, I might feel the need to break it into two moons, because maybe I need to address two types of businesses from one topic. And so maybe I have two parts, right? How to create a polarizing story part one, and how to create a polarizing story part two. This is how I can get from my core mission to my exact topic. Now, I'll also give you an example of Jonathan's content, solar system content model. Like I said, Jonathan is a big name in the solopreneur industry, I would say. He encourages his son is basically ditching hourly billing. He's of a firm opinion that you should not charge your clients by the hour, you should charge them by value. So if I work for typically how solopreneurs or consultants charge the clients is that if I work for 1 hour, you can pay me $5. If I work for 10 hours, you can pay me $50. But Jonathan is against this model. He says that instead of billing hourly, you should bill by the value that you're providing to the client. If I am able to make my client $100, I should be able to charge, let's say, $50. Or if I am able to make my client $10,000, I should be able to charge $1,000, because that just makes more sense regardless of how many hours I work. Now, what Jonathan has done is that he has broken down this whole mission of ditch hourly billing and embrace value pricing into these planets, which is niching down, value pricing, productized services, writing books, creating courses, speaking at conferences, starting a podcast, imposter syndrome, project proposals, sales negotiations, scope creep, etc. Right? These are his planets. Of course, like I said, he hasn't really used the moons, but you can see that when he creates his daily email or his content, it revolves around these planets. Now you might just have a question that, okay, Pranav, all of this is fine, but what if I don't know my core? What if my sun itself is a big question mark? And that's a very, very valid concern. I would say that if you don't know your sun, that's not an excuse to not publish. Okay, if you think that, okay, I have not figured out my sun yet, so I don't need to publish. No, that's absolutely not what I mean. In fact, finding out your sun is a game of quantity. When you go on writing, slowly, these clouds basically, pass, and you are able to get more and more clarity about this sun. So even if you don't know your sun, just assume something or just start writing even without a sun. That's absolutely fine, because with time you will get clarity. I promise you will get clarity about your sun. And also please know that this sun is not etched in stone, which means that you are allowed to change it. Of course, you don't have to change it, or you shouldn't change it after every 2 days, because then it shows how unclear you are and it affects your brand. But maybe once in a while you evolve as a person, or your business evolves, and maybe you are focusing, or your mission shifts a little bit. So what I will say is that you're allowed to change your sun. And especially in the beginning, nobody is really looking at your content. If you are someone who is just getting started with this, or even if you have, let's say, only 10 or 20 fans, or even 50 fans for that matter, you are allowed to pivot. You are allowed to change this a little bit. So don't get too attached to this particular sun. And if at all you get very, very stressed out in figuring out your sun, please go and watch an episode of Whose Line Is It Anyway? It's an amazing show. This is me signing off. I hope that this was able to add you some value, and please comment on this, because it helps me understand what worked and what did not work. Also, go to my website and sign up for my newsletter, and you can visit my website on pranavkale.com/podcast and just sign up to my newsletter, so that we can have a one-to-one conversation and we can exchange ideas there. Thanks so much and take care. Bye-bye.